I thought I owe it to the admiring world around me to, first of all, join Pope Francis in prayers for the children of Kiev. I have been alone now for some 30 years, which is terribly sad for me. After the world evidently got to watch my love affair with a beauty who I had the foolish audacity to believe would love someone who had been loyal for years and years and years to the cause of progressive rock music as an understudy of some of the more renowned and interesting English. And since I was hideously backstabbed, it was a matter of amusement to hear me scream. So people took it as sort of a perverse payback for having sensibilities from the avant garde regarding freedom of speech, that my freedom of speech was contained in tremendous loss and suffering of a neurological nature. And as a result of that, there was almost a sarcastic tradition to the allowing me to speak my mind. The sort of sarcastic tradition of the great triumphant warriors, I mean, not that I was the triumphant warrior, but I was the sarcastic comic relief provided. So I would like to say something about my firm rejection of the claim that there was anything reasonable in the invasion of the Ukraine. What does somebody like me look for in a leader? Well, I'm not saying that there's no such thing as destructive criticism or insults, but you enter a new level, a new era of foolishness when you provide leadership that simply goes crazy when somebody laughs at them. I mean, for one thing, a leader should have poise and consider all issues as are due and right to consider and listen for new ideas that are important to understand that may not fall in absolute sway with themselves, but to be spontaneously and recklessly triggered by anything anybody says or does that's adverse to you is not a good quality in a leader. Of course, that was the essence of Trumpy tune. He and Peter Gabriel organized the media spectacular where people would get a chance to look at the anonymous fellow in his gyrations. So I'm just gratifying you in that. My concern for a progressive leader is more or less captured by Roger Anlicker, who, well, a student approached me and said, that girl whose work you so admire, she was seen crying. That's why. Because Professor Anlicker had criticized her work. And I was like, but he's supposedly the voice of the arts studio. She's a great artist. What's this about? So I planted myself across from the lunch hall to get his attention. He finally said, what is it? I said, You made Chris Weisel cry. He looked at me with such fierce animosity, and then his expression softened. And he said, I didn't understand that at all. I liked that girl's work. I got lost contemplating it. And when I turn around, next thing I know, she's out in the hall being consoled. What are these students paying me for? What do they want from me? The ones I ignore should go run from the room in tears. Said, what they don't understand is that the more involved the criticism, the higher the compliment. I was like Bod when it came to Putin. I thought he was a reasonable man. I looked at the problems and was willing to do my share and agreeing that missiles at the doorstep of Russia were a waste of time, money, and were only going to backfire and creating fear and hostility among a huge nuclear behemoth. The hostilities towards one another have been unjustified and foolish for a long, long time. But what do we have now? We have nothing. We're not even back to square one. We're dealing with cold blooded legitimate. Every single stated issue has been thrown away. Every hope for faith and mutual self restraint and good conduct has been thrown away. And what are we dealing with now? Fear that there's no end to this, that it's just going to go, nobody's ever proclaimed no first use, even. It's like the whole world is united in madness to say, we don't care about the children, we don't care about the climate change. It's only a fool would be afraid to blow up the world in the interests of egomania. Lying and poaching are not good qualities in a leader. It's a shame.